I do want to thank you very much for taking the time to join our training this morning. When you have completed the training, you will receive your username and password via email, including a link to the login screen that you see on your screen right now. So we're going to go ahead and put in our username today. Now, the username and password is assigned per facility. So if you have more than one user in your facility, you're all going to be using the same one. And as I go through the presentation today, you'll see that there's preparer information that's pre-populated for you. So it's going to be populated with the office manager's information. However, if there's somebody filling in or somebody else doing the E-Verify for a new employee, then you can override that information, or we can change it on a more permanent basis if someone leaves their position and it's taken over by someone else. So when you log in, it's going to take you to the dashboard. It'll have a welcome message for the preparer information that's pre-stored in the system, along with your company information here in the upper left-hand corner. You will notice today we are using a training site. So keep in mind that everything that you see here on the dashboard, although you may see these sections on the dashboard, your dashboard really isn't going to look anything like this. In other words, you're not going to have 218 employees that have expired work authorizations. So keep in mind as we go through that this is a training site. I'm going to replicate everything as best as I can. I'll go through each of the sections of the dashboard, and then I'll run through a couple of scenarios on what you can expect when you, what you can expect most frequently when you submit a new e-verification for your new employees. So we're going to go ahead and get started here with section number 1. This is going to show you that there are requests that are awaiting the completion of the Section 1 of the I-9 form. Section 1 is going to be the employee's demographic information, their name, social, date of birth, address, etc. This form can be, this part of the form can be emailed to an associate by selecting the Section 1 email here on the left or on the right. Basically, let's just say that you hired interviewed Joe Jones on Thursday and decided to offer him a position, but he's not going to be starting until Monday, and you want him to go ahead and put in the information for Section 1 prior to him showing up with his documentation on Monday. So you can email it to them. This lets you know in blue that it's been sent out and it's awaiting the completion of Section 1. And then when it shows up back here in red, it means that they've completed it and it's waiting for you to continue when they come into your location with their documents. The Form I-9's needing attention is not anything that's ever going to show up on your dashboard. This is something that's being managed by your corporate HR department, so we're just going to skip over that part. The expiring work authorizations is the next section here. There are two options that can appear in this section. This is going to be expired work authorizations or employees that have work authorizations that are nearing their expiration date. Work authorizations that are expired, you'll notice in red, require immediate attention, because if the work authorization is expired, then the employee is not currently authorized to work in the United States until the issue is resolved. Work authorizations that are nearing their expiration date just need to be monitored so that action can be taken before the work authorization expires. So the countdown for that starts at about 180 days and goes to 90, and then 90 to 30, and then 30 to 1. So you've got 6 months to let the associate know that they need to either renew their visa, their work authorization document, apply for citizenship, get a permanent Social Security card, or whatever the case may be. Once it's already expired and they've done nothing about it, you do have the right to either terminate their employment or put them on a leave of absence or whatever until that issue has been resolved. The unprocessed e-verify queries is next on the dashboard, and this section is going to outline any I-9s that you have completed but have not been submitted to e-verify. Now, this can happen if there was an interruption with your internet connection, or, for example, when the government shut down, you were still required to put people in within those 3 business days of their start date. However, you weren't able to get a response at that time. So they kind of collected here and waited until you could go back in, simply click the link, and then click process and have the employee information submitted to e-verify and get a response. The incomplete E-Verify cases, which is next on the dashboard. In this section, this is going to notify you if you've not completed a pending E-Verify case. So basically it means that the associate's information was sent to E-Verify and E-Verify responded, and the system is waiting for you to proceed. So you see there's a lot of options here. For example, the case closed completion means that you received an authorization and you simply need to click on to close the case. If you see SSA, which stands for Social Security Administration, or DHS, which stands for Department of Homeland Security, Tentative Non-Confirmation, this means you need to follow the steps and print out the tentative non-confirmation letters and allow the associate to address the non-confirmation issues with the Social Security Administration or the Department of Homeland Security. If you see DHS, re-verify and resubmit, this means that you're about to get a DHS tentative non-confirmation, but are given the opportunity to review and resubmit your information in case there was a data entry error or something. And if no changes are made, you will receive the tentative non-confirmation. And then finally, if you see the photo completion, photo confirmation completion, you simply need to verify that the photo on the applicant's document, usually a passport, matches what's provided on your screen. And a lot of these here will make more sense as I go through the scenarios that you can expect to incur and encounter. Finally, we've got the unresolved E-Verify cases. Now, this section is going to outline any I-9s that have been sent through the E-Verify system that still require additional attention by the Social Security Administration or the Department of Homeland Security. So you'll notice that since the items in this section are in blue, they're not high priority items for you. It just simply lets you know that these applicants are still pending with the government. Once the government has completed their investigation, and the item will show up in this section in red, and that means that they've responded and it now requires your attention. And they'll either respond with letting you know that there was data entered incorrectly, you need to close the case and start over again, or that their database has been updated and now you should be able to proceed and receive a result. All right, so that pretty much covers everything on the dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and, like I promised, run through a couple of scenarios for you. The first one is going to be very simple. It's what you're going to encounter probably 99% of the time. You're going to begin by clicking on the green button at the top that says New Form I-9. And the first thing it's going to ask you for is if this person is a new hire. Now, for you that are joining Florida Woman Care for the first time, but have current employees that could have been with you for a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be, they're still going to be a new employee to Florida Woman Care, new to their payroll. So 100% of the time you are always going to select that it is a new employee, regardless of how long that person has been employed with your facility. Okay, you're going to put in their Social Security number. Now, when I click Next in the training site, I've used the Social Security number 1,000 times, as have probably a million other people. So right now the system is generating a list of the use of that social. When you pull it up, the next page should come up pretty instantaneously, and you're not going to have any names on the list unless, of course, you're putting in a person that you had at one time hired, and then maybe their husband got stationed, in the military somewhere else, and then a year later they're coming back and want to be employed by you again, and you're running their e-verification again. Their name might show up on a list here, but otherwise you're just going to have the new Form I-9, and here at the very bottom, which won't be the bottom in your case, it will say something like no results returned or no matches found or something like that. How would you like to proceed? You're going to process a new form. All right. The next page is going to ask how you would like to complete the Form I-9 for this new employee. It's going to default to the electronic I-9, and that's always the process that you're going to use. You do have the option here by checking the box to only complete Section 1 of the Form I-9. So in other words, Joe Jones that you hired on Thursday, if you want to preemptively go into the system and complete Section 1 prior to him coming in with his documents on his start date on Monday, you can do that preemptively instead of emailing it to the new associate, or you can do the whole process all at once. So that's what we're going to do today. So you're going to leave it at the electronic I-9. Go ahead and select Next. And this is Section 1 of the I-9 form. You'll notice that there are several fields here that are denoted with a red asterisk. These are going to be required fields on this page. So you are going to need to make sure that something is entered into each field. Now, the other names used allows for a maiden name or any other legal name. The system will allow for one previous name. So if you're dealing with a married, someone that's married or has been divorced or something like that, you can put in the maiden name or their, their most recent previous name other than their current name at this time. If no other names are available, then you can simply enter NA into the field. Okay, their address is going to be next. And their date of birth. The email address and telephone number are optional fields. However, if you do put something in this field, you can then go back later on and search by any data entry information that you entered in. Down here, you can select their applicable citizenship status. For our training purposes today, we're going to say that they are a citizen of the United States, and then you'll be allowed to select Continue. Now here, the employee must review the information that was entered into the system. You can either show the applicant the information or you can read it aloud to them for verification. If you read it to them, I strongly suggest spelling everything out just to make sure that you didn't misspell their name or transpose any numbers or anything like that. In addition, this pink statement here at the bottom does need to be made available to them as well. Basically, they're going to attest that they're aware that, that federal law provides for imprisonment and or fines for false statements or information in connection with the completion of the form. They are consenting to the electronic process, and that if at this point they don't consent and you hit no, none of the information is going to be saved in the system. And that the Form I-9 generally contains a disclosure and consent, which are usually provided in written form. However, because they're going through the electronic process, this serves as that disclosure. And so checking the box is going to imply the associate's electronic signature, and then you will be allowed to select yes and continue. Now here's where your preparer information will be pre-populated. If the associate does not understand English and you don't speak Spanish and you had to bring a translator in to read the previous statement in the pink box, they would have to override your information with theirs as the preparer for that purpose. However, otherwise, it does need to reflect whoever is assisting with the completion of the form. So if someone is covering for you while you're on vacation or something along those lines, they'll have to override your, your information with theirs. Here, you as the preparer is going to attest under penalty of perjury that you have assisted in the completion of the form and that to the best of your knowledge, the information is true and correct. Checking the box implies your electronic signature, and then you'll be allowed to select yes and continue. Now here is where you're going to select the documentation that they brought to you. You cannot tell the associate what they have to bring, so you can't say, well, you have to bring us a birth certificate or you have to bring us your driver's license and your social security card or whatever the case may be. In your new hire packet, I've been made aware that there is a form that lists the accepted documentation that they can bring in. They can choose anything from those lists. If it's a passport, that's all that's required. However, if they bring, a birth certificate, then there'll be a second document from List C that's required. So, like I said, you have to bring whatever, for whatever they bring you. If it's insufficient, then you can hand them the list and make some suggestions, but you can't tell them that they have to bring this or that. So for Elaine today, we're going to assume that she brought us a U.S. passport or passport card. The system is going to notate to you that you must photocopy any U.S. passport or passport card, employment authorization document, or permanent resident card if the employee presents one of these documents. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take the passport from them, immediately go to your copy machine, preferably copy it on photo mode so that the photograph on the passport is legible on the copy that you make, and then you're going to hand them back the passport and keep the copy for yourself. And that will be used at a later time during the process. The issuing authority is automatically going to default to the U.S. Department of State, and the document number can be found on the passport itself, along with the expiration date. Now, the start date is automatically going to default to the current date. Because you do only have 3 business days to enter in the applicant's or the associate's information, if you put in a date that goes beyond that and check the box, the system is going to want you to provide an explanation of why it was not completed within the 3 business days of the start date. Any of these are acceptable. If you select other, I think you've got like 250 characters here where you can put in an explanation. So for training purposes, again, we're just going to assume that we are doing this within the 3 business days. And we're going to check the box saying that that is correct. Your preparer information will show up here again. The notes field on this page is optional. However, you can feel free to put in their employee ID, their position, the hours that they're going to work. Anything that makes sense to you is fine, or you can leave it blank. Here, the certification means that you are attesting under penalty of perjury that you've examined the documents that they've brought to you and presented, and that they all look to be legitimate, not fraudulent or counterfeit in any way. Checking the box again implies your electronic signature, and then you'll be allowed to select Yes, Continue. Now, the next page is where you're going to verify that the photograph that shows up on the screen matches the photograph from the passport that you made the photocopy of. This doesn't look like an Elaine to me, but we are going to assume that it is. You'll notice here that E-Verify has already assigned a unique and specific case number to the individual. So if for some reason, let's say Elaine accidentally grabbed her daughter's passport instead of her own and the photograph does not match, if you were to select no at this point, this is something that will show up back on your dashboard for that photo confirmation that I mentioned earlier, and you can simply move forward from that point on when she brings the correct passport in with the right photograph on it, instead of having to start the process all over again. So again, for training purposes, we're going to assume that the photo does match. And now the system's going to provide you with their response. So here it says that this is SSA employment authorized, indicating that the employee is authorized to work in the United States, and you are required to close the case by clicking the Close Case link below. Now, I realize that the next statement can be a little misleading. It says if you created this case in error or no longer need to continue this verification, click Close Case. Well, obviously, we know that you didn't create it in error. However, you do no longer need to continue the verification because the response that you're looking for is right here. So you do need to go ahead and close the case. The system's going to ask if the employee is still employed. You're going to select yes. And then it's going to ask you for reasons why you're closing the case. You can close the case at any point during the process if you realize that you entered information incorrectly, the document that they brought was the wrong one, or or you selected the wrong issuing authority, whatever the case may be. The system doesn't know why you're closing the case at any given time, so that's why it brings up a list of reasons. So 99% of the time it's going to be because the employee continues to work for the employer after receiving an employment authorized result. So once you make that selection, then the Submit button will appear. It's going to ask if you're sure you want to close the case with the selected status. You can select OK. Now, as far as E-Verify is concerned, you are done with this individual. So it returns you back to the dashboard, and as far as E-Verify is concerned, there's nothing further that you need to do. However, for Florida Woman Care, and in order to add this person to their payroll, they want to know that this was completed. So you are required to print out a form summary and send it to them with the rest of the new hire paperwork that you have for this employee. So you can search in the search box here on the right with any information that you entered in. It can be it can be the case number that was assigned if you want to copy and paste it. It can be their first name, last name, telephone number, email address. Any data entry that you use can be used to enter in that information. Okay, that didn't work the last time I did it either. I apologize. Let me go ahead and search by name. And of course, we're going to get 1,000 responses for Elaine. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, so email address You can't use the email address. You can use anything else there, first name, last name, physical address, etc. See if I can find the one that I did today, although it really shouldn't matter because they're all the same. 11:15, here we go. All right, so once you find their name, only one name should come up. You know, again, if you search by the case number or your person's name. So this is the form summary here. This is the E-Verify information that your corporate HR is looking for. You simply need to right-click and print the page. And again, this is what's going to be included with the new hire paperwork that you send to them to get this person added to the payroll. After that printed, now you're done. Nothing further needs to be done with this individual. They're all set. They're ready to go. Now, I did promise that I'm going to run through a second scenario for you. This one is going to be a little more complex. It's going to seem pretty tedious, but the system is going to take you through it step by step, you know, all along the way. So I'm going to ask you to bear with me. So we're going to go ahead and select the new Form I-9. Yes, it's going to be a new employee. You're going to enter in the Social Security number. Again, you're not going to receive any kind of list. You're probably going to have something that says no results matched or no matches found or anything like that. How would you like to proceed? You're going to process a new form. The electronic process is going to be defaulted. You're going to leave it there and select Next. And then you're going to put in their information. Okay, we're going to assume again that they're a citizen of the United States, and you're going to select Continue. Here's where you're going to verify that all of the information that you entered is correct by reading it or reading it to the associate or letting them come around and read it. And then the pink statement, of course, needs to be read or you need to allow the associate to read it themselves. Clicking the box implies their electronic signature, and then you'll select Yes and Continue. Okay, here's your preparer information here, and you're going to attest under penalty of perjury that you've assisted with the completion of the form and that to the best of your knowledge the information is true and correct. Again, select Yes, Continue. And here's where you're going to select the documents that they've presented for you. Now for John Doe here, we're going to assume that they brought us a driver's license and a Social Security card. So from List B, the driver's license number is the first one here. However, they can bring anything from List B, as indicated on the handout that you provide to them with their new hire paperwork. The issuing authority is going to be the state that it was issued in. Now here you're going to get a little note that says the documentation from List B must include a photograph when using E-Verify. It doesn't say that you have to make a copy of it because that's not required like it is with the passport, but it does have to have a photograph. So again, the issuing authority is going to be the state that it was issued in. And the supporting document type is going to allow you to select either a driver's license or an ID card because not everyone has a valid driver's license. The document number is going to be the driver's license number. I don't think it's required to put in the dashes, but I would go ahead and do that anyway. The system will take them out if it doesn't need them. And then, of course, the expiration date can be found on the license as well. Now, because you're selecting a document from List B, you are also required to select a document from List C. So you can simply use the drop-down menu again. And if they brought you a Social Security card, that is going to be an unrestricted card. Now, let's just say that they brought you a document that looks just like a Social Security card. It's blue. It's got the same print type on it, but it has some verbiage that says something along the lines of issued by the DHS for work authorization only. In that case, you are going to need to go to the bottom of the list here because that's an employment authorization document issued by the Department of the Homeland Security. It is not an unrestricted Social Security card that was issued by the Social Security Administration. So be sure that you're aware of the difference and make the correct selection here. Of course, the issuing authority is going to automatically default to the Social Security Administration. the document number is going to be their Social Security number, and the document does not have, Social Security numbers don't have expiration dates on them. They have issue dates, but not expiration dates. So you're just going to check this box. Don't put NA or anything else in this box, because once you check this box, this one's going to go away. And the system is not going to understand that you didn't put a date format in that box. It's just going to, it's going to detect something was put in the box, and then you checked the other box saying that there wasn't any information, so it's going to get confused. So just leave the original box blank and check this one, and then you should be fine with that. Again, the start date is going to default to the current date. You have 3 days. You're going to confirm the start date. Your prepare information, again, is going to show up here. And then you're going to attest under penalty of perjury that the documents look to be legitimate and not counterfeit in any way. So you'll check the box inferring your electronic signature again, and then you'll be allowed to select yes, continue. Okay, now here, it's already assigned a unique identifying case number, and the response that you're getting is that it's a Social Security Administration re-verify. So basically it's saying that the Social Security number entered in e-verify was not valid according to the SSA records. Now, keep in mind that that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It could be, especially if it was recently issued within the last 6 months to a year, that e-verify's database, if this person has not yet been, ever been employed, just has simply not been updated with the Social Security Administration's records. So not necessarily a need to panic. You are given an opportunity to review the information. You'll notice here that all of the Section 1 information is not able to be amended. It's all grayed out, so you can't make any changes here. If at this point you realize that something here is incorrect, you will need to close the case and start over again. However, you are given an opportunity to make adjustments to the document information that you entered, either the driver's license number or the Social Security number. So we're going to assume that I entered in everything correctly, and we're not going to make any changes. So we're going to select the No Changes, Continue. It's going to ask, are you sure you want to cancel any changes? We didn't make any, so we can hit OK. And then you're going to ask the system to resubmit with the same information. Now here, the response is that you're getting a Social Security Administration Tentative Non-Confirmation. It's just indicating that the employee's work authorization could not be confirmed by the E-Verify database. It doesn't mean that they're not authorized to work or that the information provided was incorrect. And please note, you should not terminate the employee based on this response. However, you do need to follow the steps to print out the tentative non-confirmation letter and allow the employee the opportunity to contest the information. So here, you're going to print the SSA tentative non-confirmation notice. It will come up on your screen. And generally, one of these boxes should be checked that tells you what the reason for the tentative non-confirmation is. It's going to have their last name, first name, social, date of birth. It's already assigned it a unique identifying case number and the date that you're receiving the notice. So as you scroll down here, it's going to have instructions for the employer, which is you, and instructions for the employee. It also has a place that you're going to be selecting next, whether they're opting to contest the information or not contest the information. So once you've printed that out, it takes you back to the E-Verify training, or the website, and it says that you have to check the box. It says that you've reviewed with and given the employee the SSA tentative non-confirmation notice. And then it's going to ask you if the employee is contesting the non-confirmation. If they select no, then you're going to be required to close the case, and you have the right to terminate that employee on the spot. If they're not willing to get the issue resolved, you have no way of knowing whether or not they're authorized to work in the United States or not. So for our purposes today, we are going to assume that, yes, they are going to contest the information. the employee is going to review it and acknowledge that they have received and reviewed the tentative non-confirmation notice, and they're also going to acknowledge that they must visit the Social Security Administration within 8 federal government workdays from the date that you give them the referral letter. They're going to check the box, or you can check it for them, inferring their electronic signature. You're going to save that signature and continue. Now it's going to give you the opportunity to print or preview, I should say, the referral letter. You don't necessarily have to preview it at this time because you're going to be asked to print it later, and it's going to include both your signature and theirs. So it basically looks the same as the notice, but it's directed to the Social Security Administration so that they can take it with them. So they're going to acknowledge that they're receiving the referral letter from you because some of the information entered into E-Verify did not match the information in the Social Security Administration's records, and they're choosing to contest that result. It explains to them what it's called and why it happens, and then they understand, again, that they must visit the Social Security Administration within 8 federal government workdays from the date that you give them the letter. Again, checking the box is going to imply their electronic signature, and then you're going to save the signature and continue. Now here, you are going to certify that you've given them a copy of the tentative non-confirmation notice and that they've made the decision indicated on page 2 to contest the information, and that they haven't been coerced or pressured or anything like that, and that you, again, are certifying that if they can't read, you've given it to them in Spanish or you've read it to them, whatever the case may be, and that you have verified that the name, the social, and the date of birth on the top of the letter is accurate as you entered it. Checking the box, again, implies your electronic signature, and then you can save the signature and continue. Now here at the bottom, it's going to give you the opportunity to print the SSA referral letter, and now you will see that it includes your electronic signature as well as their electronic signature and a date and time stamp, so that when they go to the Social Security Administration, the Social Security Administration knows that they're going within the allotted time frame. This also will create behind the scenes a referral for them in their system, so they can kind of check it off their list when the associate shows up with this letter. After you've printed the referral letter, you can check the box that says that you've given the employee the SSA referral letter. And then you can print the notice, the signed notice as well. So the signed notice and the signed referral letter, a copy of it anyway, will stay with you. The non-signed notice and a copy of the signed referral letter will go with them. So they'll be able to keep the notice, the unsigned notice, for their records, and they'll turn in the signed referral letter to the Social Security Administration. So once all of that has been accomplished, then you can finalize the form and return to the dashboard. And then in about, anywhere from 15 to 30 days, it's going to show up under this unresolved E-Verify cases in red under the SSA referrals. Let's just assume that they wait the entire 8 days to go. They don't go until the 11th hour. And then it's going to take the Social Security Administration, 10 to 15 business days to, investigate and resolve the issue. So again, it will show up here in red, and it's either going to tell you that there was, wrong information entered, and you need to close the case and start over again, or it's going to tell you that the issue's been resolved and that now you should be able to proceed and receive your response. All right, so that's everything that I have as far as the dashboard and possible scenarios that you'll run into. The only other thing that I'm going to cover with you right now is that you can, let's just say that you do receive, you put in your information that you're not able to obtain a result, either because there's system maintenance with E-Verify, or there was a power outage or something along those lines, and you're wanting to know, A, what the issue is, and B, if you want, when you go in there to try to do it again by going here to the unprocessed E-Verify queries, you want to know if that connection's been established again. You can simply go to the Help page, or the Help tab here at the top, and you can do an E-Verify communication test. And once you select that link, it will tell you that there was successfully established a connection and that you can proceed. If you did not get a response when you first put it in and you did this test and see that there was a connection, you may need to reach out to us to find out what the issue was. Maybe there was some kind of, just a blip in the system that didn't allow it, or whatever the case may be. Also on the help page is something that you'll receive a reference to in the email with your username and password. There are 4 posters here at the top, the first 4 documents here that you will need to print out and post in your location. It can be the break room, the bathroom, the hallway, whatever, but all 4 need to be printed and visible to your employees. So that is referenced in the email that you get with your username and password. There's also a real handy handbook here for employers that has a lot of useful information in it. It's pretty detailed, and it's a long document. But if you ever have questions, you can refer to that, as far as documentation that they bring you or other issues that may come up. All right, so that's everything that I have for you. I do thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. And if you have any questions, my contact information will be included with the username and password that you receive via email. So feel free to contact us at any time.